all the people that I've interviewed for The Power of the Heart, they all became very successful. They were not successful from the beginning. They just tried to be normal.
It's me in Holland, and I'm here today to meet someone that I already deeply love. His work, Baptiste Pape, is actually much more centered around the heart. There he is.
Hey,
how are you, man?
Good to see you.
You changed my life.
Thank you so much, but how did I do that? You are here in a body. You are Mo Gawdat, personality. But you also have a soul with a soul signature.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. All those, what we would call miracles, start to take place. Why? Because you are connecting with infinite intelligence.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she has no more options. And she says, no, show me. I don't know how to deal with this anymore, but show me. So she has to tap into another intelligence. She prays to her God.
I mean, it's so interesting. The last 7 years of my life have been about what, you know, the saying, the longest journey is the journey you'll take from your head to your heart.
Yes, it's a Native American saying.
Yeah, I've been, for the last 7 years, I've been on that journey. I mean, I don't know how far I have been, but I can tell you the steps that I have taken have flipped my life upside down. And your work, The Power of the Heart, it's just so beautiful. It's so, I don't know what it does really. I don't know if it's talking to my head or you have embedded some like magic in that. But how often do you watch a documentary type film and cry and laugh and love? It's just incredible. It really is.
Wow. There's a saying in the Torah, words that come from the heart touch the heart.
Yeah, right.
So I think real communication takes place when you speak from your heart, and then so my heart can feel it.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about artificial intelligence, but if two robots would be talking to each other, do they really make a heart connection? And I think that's an interesting conversation. There's a great film by Steven Spielberg, AI, and the little boy, actually, he's an artificial intelligent robot.
Yeah.
But he wants to have a soul. And I think the power of the heart is really about the seed of the soul, because the heart is the seed of the soul. And that's our true identity, the soul.
Do you believe that humanity has become that robot? That we...
Yes, very much. I think we have become like the living dead. We're like zombies.
Oh, my son used to say that.
Yes. In the film, you've seen the film The Power of the Heart. Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist, says, I know a lot of people and they work hard.
Yes.
And they watch television, but they have become like the living dead. They are cut off from their aliveness, and you can see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
And this is all because of social engineering, social conditioning, the mainstream media. People are not connected with their soul. They are disconnected from their soul. And I think this is the biggest malady of our time, loss of soul. And I think we have to look for ways to connect again with our true identity, which is the soul. And that's what the power of the heart is about.
So hold on. So you're saying soul and heart.
Yes.
So I in my next book, in Unstressable, hopefully out in 7 months or so, I talk about the fact that we're made up of 4 components. We're made up of a mind, a body, a heart, and a soul.
Yes.
Are you saying that the only gateway to that soul is the heart?
I think if you, and this is science actually, if you look at the film, it opens with an experiment from HeartMath.
Absolutely.
HeartMath is an institute in California.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. What they do in this experiment, they show people pictures, and the heart actually knows what's happening before the eyes actually see the picture. Yes,
shocking.
And this has been done in many independent laboratories all over the world. But this shows us that intuition is a real thing. But this is how the intuitive information comes in. It comes into the heart first, then the heart is sending it to the brain, and then it goes to our gut. Because a lot of people say, I don't feel it in my heart. I feel intuitive information in my gut. Because the heart is the place where we receive the intuitive information. And where is this coming from? This is coming from our soul.
Now, so let me explain this to our listeners. If, if you haven't watched the movie, I absolutely urge you to watch The Power of the Heart. It's absolutely worth every minute that you'll spend on it. The movie starts with this experiment where basically participants are shown images while their brains and hearts are being measured. Okay, yes. And what happens is that they see an image, and then there are a few seconds of darkness on the screen, and then another image, and so on. And when the image that is about to show up is a disturbing image, something that will hurt or that will engage your compassion for another, and so on and so forth, the heart drops in its beats before the image is shown.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, first of all, I was blown away by the results. But also delighted that we're starting to do research on the heart, right?
Yes.
On love, on connection, on the non-physical, if you want. But how does the heart know that? Is it because the soul knows, and then it tells the heart before the image is shown?
I think the best way to explain this is to go to Anita Moorjani.
Oh, I love Anita Moorjani. Anita, again, for our listeners, Dying to Be Me, an amazing piece of work. I hope to have her someday here on Slow Mo. She's one of my favorite authors, actually. Yeah.
So her story, she was in a hospital in Hong Kong, and she had lymphoma, so that's cancer of the lymphatic system. And the doctor said, well, you have only 6 hours to live. Please call your family. They can come here to say goodbye to you. So her brother, who is in India, is taking the plane to Hong Kong. And all her organs are beginning to shut down. And she goes into a coma. And the doctors are trying, to see what they can do to wake her up again. And her husband is there, her mother is there. And while she is in that coma, she feels better than ever because she's in a new state of awareness, new state of consciousness, heightened state of consciousness. And she has, in her own words, she has this 360 degree consciousness. Yeah. She's aware of everything, everywhere at the same time. And at that moment, she realizes that there is really no time. It's an illusion. And there is no such thing as past lives or reincarnation. It's all happening at the same time.
I know.
And she is there. It's almost a classical near-death experience, of course, with a tunnel of light. But she sees a friend who has passed recently, also from cancer, and she sees her father, who was a Hindu and who was very strict and who wanted an arranged marriage for her and who wanted her to live in a certain way. And she was always fighting with her father. And all of a sudden, he's there, not in the body anymore, not with the ego anymore, not with the personality anymore, but just pure love, unconditional love. And she realizes that the ego and our cultural conditioning and our gender and our morals are all connected to the body, because that's what we basically call the ego. And when we are separate from the body, when we are just infinite consciousness, we don't have all those attributes anymore. We are just love. And her father is there, and for the first time, he loves her unconditionally. And she sees that he was treating her because of the filters of his social conditioning and his upbringing. And she realizes that she was experiencing this cancer in her body because she was afraid all her life. She was not true to herself. She was not authentic. And that fear had grown into her cells in her body. And that was the cancer. And her father says, your true identity is love, and you have to treasure your magnificence, and you have to live authentically and not in fear. And because you didn't do that, that's the reason why you have cancer now.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, this is so great that I know this, but I'm so happy that I'm not in the body anymore because I'm free from all the pain and all the suffering. And so she doesn't want to go back. But her father tells her, no, you have to go back because it's your mission now to share this message with the world.
The world,
yes. Yeah. And she says, no, I don't want to go back to that body because there's cancer everywhere. But he tells her, if you go back with the new knowledge and with the light you have right now, the cancer will be gone. And she goes back into the body, and within 3 weeks, they cannot find any cancer anymore.
Yeah.
3 weeks, in 3 weeks. After 5 weeks, she is released from the hospital. Yes. And now she's sharing this message with the world that this is our true identity, not the body. Our true identity is unconditional love. And our task in life is to merge with this true identity, to merge with unconditional love. This is infinite intelligence, what we're talking about. And now so what happens after she comes back into the body? She comes out of the coma. The doctors can't find anything anymore. And they don't want to let her go, of course, because they say the fact that we can't see it anymore doesn't mean it's not there anymore. Yeah. But she knows in her heart that it's already gone. And she says, and this is important in terms of, how should we live and how should we, manifest things in our life. She says, we don't have to do anything. All we have to do is merge with this unconditional love, our true identity. And from there on, everything will manifest. If we are truly ourselves, everything that truly belongs to us will come to us in our lives. And she says, I'm the best example of that. Because when I started to merge with this love energy, with the soul again, my cancer
is gone.
I'm completely healed. The second thing that happens is all of a sudden, she gets a phone call from the people of Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you know who Wayne Dyer is. Wayne Dyer hears about this story and he is like, wow, if this is really true, this is completely congruent with my teachings, then I would love to interview this woman. So his doctors called the doctors in that hospital in Hong Kong because they want to see the medical records, to make sure
verify that this is true.
Yeah, to see if this really happened. And what happens is that it's all true. The doctors confirm this is a medical miracle. So he calls her and he says, okay, this really happened. We now have the medical dossiers to back this up. And what happens is that he says, I think you should share your story with the world. And I will help you to get a publishing deal with my publisher, Hay House. And within no time, this becomes a New York Times bestseller. So she says, when I started to merge with this consciousness, I was completely healed from cancer. They had given me up. Wayne Dyer contacts me, the great Wayne Dyer, the biggest spiritual teacher in the United States. And I created a New York Times bestseller and I didn't have to do anything for it. It was all effortless. I just had to be myself. So I think this is working with our true self, our true identity. If we are truly ourselves, then we attract the right people. We are attracting each other because we are really doing our work to be ourselves. That's why we're sitting here.
Yeah, that's why you are sitting right in front of me right now.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm attracting you for sure.
Yes. And I am attracting you.
Yeah. It is.
And on a deeper level, there's no one else. I'm just talking with myself right now. Yes. So we're just having a conversation with ourselves.
No. That you can't drop that right in there. Expand. What does that mean?
Yes. If there's only one consciousness. I mean, we are now, you are Mo and I am Baptiste. And we're two.
In the physical.
In the physical, yes. But in the non-physical, at the, I think, deepest level, there's only one consciousness. Yeah. That's what I believe.
Look, I mean, we need to go on a tangent here.
Yes.
Because this is really the question. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, there is a lot of evidence in the mind that, yes, it is one conscious. The fact that the heart can see something before it happens, the fact that my son, my wonderful son, before he died, he knew he was dying, right? There is a lot of evidence that gets ignored by the modern world, and we'll come back to that in a minute, that there is more to us than the physical. Okay, when I hugged Ali after he left his body, his beautiful body was still the same.
Yes,
but you could feel his essence was no longer there.
The aliveness was gone.
Yeah, Ali was gone. Ali was actually felt elsewhere in the room. We could feel him elsewhere. We couldn't feel him in that body, right? Now, we know that to be true. Every human, even those who don't have a spiritual background or a religious background or whatever, which most of the stories come from, they feel that there is something bigger than the physical. But the problem is we're unable to connect to that thing because we're so occupied with this game.
Yes.
We're unable to let go of the logic of the mind chatter, which is so noisy that you can't hear this. You can't hear the heart.
Yes. This is just an interface, the mind. we have the soul. And what her story, Anita Moorjani's story, shows that there is an intelligence and awareness that's
beyond the body,
beyond the mind. And this is just an interface, right? But what we did through our social conditioning and our education, we created a society where the interface became the leader, the master,
the boss.
And that's the biggest problem. If you look at the real relationship that they should have is, if you are the mind, the interface, right? And you're on a boat on a river, then the interface, the mind, can only see the next bend, the next turn on the river. So it has a very limited perspective of what can happen because it's linear, it's logical, it's rational. But if you are the soul, then the soul can see the whole journey from source to sea. But we cannot see it with the eyes. That's what the HeartMath experiment is showing us. But it has a much higher perspective because it's infinite intelligence. And we can only learn to work with that intelligence if we start experimenting with it, so that the brain gives itself permission to listen to the intelligence of the soul. We need to give ourselves permission to do that.
Is there a practical way to do this?
Yes, there are many ways to do that. Meditation is one. But I think gratitude is a very powerful one.
Interesting. Why?
When we are in a state of gratitude, then our thinking stops. Our thinking stops. We just feel, if we're in a real state of gratitude, right? Not pretending to be grateful, but in a real state of gratitude. And then what Eckhart Tolle says, we become connected with the present moment. And when we are in the present moment, then we are fully connected with our soul. So we can totally do that. And gratitude is one. I interviewed so many people for The Power of the Heart. Maya Angelou said, I connect with the soul through prayer and through singing. And Paulo Coelho and Isabel Allende said, we connect with the soul through writing. Everything that brings you into that energy. There's a wonderful book called The Seed of the Soul. And of course, the heart is the seed of the soul. And the book is written by Gary Zukav. I don't know if you've heard of him. But this is Oprah Winfrey's favorite book other than the Bible.
Is it really?
Yes.
How did I not hear of that?
No. I mean, you should really. There's two people who have been on the Oprah Winfrey show the most, and they are Celine Dion, of course, and Gary Zukav. And Gary Zukav talks about authentic power, and authentic power is this state where the personality starts serving the energy of the soul. We could say personality, but we can also say the interface, the mind. When it starts serving the energy of the soul, that's when we create authentic power. That's when we really start to work from that energy of the soul. And we can totally do that, but it takes practice and it takes experimenting. Every time when we have to make a decision, we can look at all the pros and all the cons, right? And take into account all the rational things, but it's also important. How does it feel? What is the energy telling us? What is our aliveness telling us? How does it feel when we go to the left? What is the energy telling us? And it's also, I mean, have you ever fallen in love? Yes, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes. That was not a rational decision, right?
Not at all.
It was love at first sight.
Yeah.
And this transcends all rationality every time again. And that's what the soul is, right? It transcends. Yes, it's you just know it's you can say, oh, it's hormones, it's this or it's that.
No, it's not at all.
No, it's not at all.
Yeah.
It's spiritual energy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I write about that in 2 books from now. It's called Finding Love.
Yes.
And I say, let's differentiate between in partnership, in lust, in romance, and in love.
Yes.
And love is very different.
Yes.
It's neither of those things.
Yes.
It's a soul connection, really.
Yes, and also with our children, right? We just love them unconditionally. We would give up our lives for them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's not a rational decision.
That's not rational at all, yeah.
That's love.
Yeah.
That's love right there. And I think love is always coming from the soul.
So what you're saying is if I switch off my humming processor up there in my head,
yes,
that's when the rest of my being starts to connect to me. That's when my soul suddenly goes like, yeah, thank you for switching off the noise.
Yes.
Here is what I need to tell you.
Yes. So this is really important because the soul is not passive. The soul has intentions. And I think it's our job to identify the intentions of the soul. You are here in a body. You are Mo Gawdat, personality. But you also have a soul with a soul signature. You have a very specific blueprint that no one else has, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Mark Nepo says, a fish cannot drown in water, yes, and a bird cannot fall from the sky. So the element of the fish is to fly. The element of the the element of the fish is to swim, I'm sorry. The element of the bird is to fly. You have a very specific element that no one has. And that's in your soul. So your soul has intentions. You have something to do here. And that's your job, to figure that out and then go live that and manifest from that place. And you can only do that when you are able to quiet the personality in the mind. And when the mind and the personality says, wow, the soul is more intelligent, the soul is wiser, I'm going to serve that energy of the soul.
So when you interviewed Paulo Coelho, he basically said, follow what the soul is telling you. And he said, you're not going to regret it.
Yes.
I loved when he said that. He said, it's not going to be easy.
Exactly.
Okay. But you're not going to regret it.
Yes.
And I think that sort of connection, that disconnects the mind's rationale of, I want an easy life, I want a successful life that follows the tradition, I want to be accepted, I want to be, not resisted, if you want.
Yes.
Is very different than, I feel contented with that decision that is true to me because my soul told me to follow it.
Yes, it is very important to realize that all the people that I've interviewed for The Power of the Heart, they all became very successful, but they were not successful from the beginning. They just tried to be normal. They went through the social conditioning and linear education, and they just wanted to be normal and fit in, right? But all of a sudden, there's a big crisis in their life, and they realize that all the things that they were taught through, linear education are not working anymore. So they have to tap into another intelligence, and they are forced to through life. Like the woman who's in the genocide in Rwanda, right?
Oh my God, that story. God.
Yeah, she has no more options. And she says, no, show me. I don't know how to deal with this anymore, but show me. So she has to tap into another intelligence. She prays to her God. And so this is what I've learned. Because my conditioning was that I should have been a lawyer in Amsterdam at the Zuidas, and then
come on,
and that was my conditioning.
Yeah,
so
you see, listeners, you see how off your conditioning can be.
Yeah, so my conditioning was, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer with a big international law firm at the Amsterdamse Zuidas. That's where the big law firms are in the Netherlands. And but my head was saying yes, but there was an energy and it felt so off. And what is that? That is an inner conflict, because your soul, if you are not fulfilling its intentions, it's going to sabotage you. So someone who's really bright can be sabotaged all the time because of this energy of the soul, because the soul says, no, your soul mission is to produce a film, The Power of the Heart, and to write a book about it. But if my mind says, no, I want to become a partner with this big law firm, then you have a big inner conflict. And what happens is that you start to become depressed and you start to feel cut off from your aliveness. And this is what many people are experiencing when they are not listening to the energy of their soul. And this is especially happening when you have a very, let's say, developed mind, because then it's good. The energy of the soul is going that way, and your mind saying, no, I want, and you see that a lot. And then they become depressed, and then their whole life collapses, and then they have to rebuild their whole life from a new foundation. And that's what happened with a lot of people in The Power of the Heart too.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's very difficult to recognize that. I mean, I'll use some of my personal examples so I don't point at anyone. But, I'm a very good businessman. I really am. I'm a very good salesman. I've done it for 25 years.
Yes.
I close very complex business deals and I do business really well. But, now that I haven't really done business for the last 3 to 4, 5 years, it just feels so off. It's while I was at it, it just felt so natural. It was, this is what I do. And I do it, authentically and ethically, right? So it's a good thing to do. But it's so difficult to recognize that it's not you. Because of all of the conditioning, isn't it?
But you say something key there. You say it felt natural. it felt natural, so it was coming from your soul. Otherwise, it would not feel natural, right?
It doesn't now at all.
No, not anymore. So you have maybe evolved on a spiritual level.
That's interesting.
Right? Maybe this is your spiritual evolution.
Does our spirit evolve, or is our spirit...
No, our spirit really doesn't evolve, but we can, as human beings in a body, evolve
align
spiritually.
More. Align more to it. So evolve spiritually. I
exactly.
Like that. Yeah. Can I ask you the weirdest question?
No, please do.
So what is this all about?
What is this all? Why? Why is this all happening?
Yeah.
I think we are here in this duality world to learn about ourselves, right? Because this is Gawdat, the avatar, right? Because your true identity is infinite consciousness, the soul, and this is my avatar that you're seeing, right? Yeah. So this is basically a matrix, and our avatars are speaking with each other.
Correct.
Yes, that's what's happening, I think.
Why? Because...
Why not? I mean, why would we...
Great answer.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Why not? I mean, I was always pondering nothingness when I was a child. What would it be if there would be nothing? I cannot imagine nothing. Can you imagine that there's nothing?
Very impossible as a scientific experiment.
So there's consciousness, and consciousness wants to experience something, and this is what consciousness chose to create this as an experience.
Yeah, it's multi-layered in so many ways. I mean, I back that up. Huh? Like, why have an Xbox and Halo on it?
Yes.
Interestingly, it's the same question, right?
Yes.
Why do we take an hour of our day and practice being Master Chief, right?
Yes.
It's because it's an experience that we get from being that avatar.
Yes.
That actually, in my case, connected me to my, believe it or not, or to my feminine side, which a lot of people laugh when I say this, that the first very feminine experience of my life was shooting aliens in Halo. Okay. Where I allowed myself, look at your face. It's true. I was tackling a very difficult level, level 1 Halo 4, where you open a door in the game and basically gravity goes away. So you're in a space station and you're in zero gravity.
Yes.
So everything you know with your brain, with your mind, about how the bullet is going to curve, where the next weapon is going to fall, where the aliens, how quickly are they running, just goes to nowhere. Like, none of the physics engine of Halo is working anymore. And suddenly you have to connect deeply to the present moment. Suddenly you no longer have to plan, I'm going to do this and then run there. Suddenly you have to be there. You have to take an action and then see what happens and then take the next action. And that kind of flow, in my view, is the idea of flowing with the river of life, if you want. It's much more on the feminine side, on the heart side, on the soul side, right? Yes. And to me, interestingly, that experience has profoundly changed the person that I am in terms of flowing in real life, in the physical life. So the analogy could also hold true. So the analogy could also hold true that, my soul is taking this physical experience as another game, basically, where the avatar is experiencing certain things so that my soul recognizes certain facts. Yeah, is that a scientifically proven thing? I don't know, but it sounds like an interesting game, really.
Yes, I think, and this is just for our linear brain, we need scientific proof all the time. Yeah. And I don't need it. I don't need it so much.
Lucky you. No, I am so badly conditioned.
Yes, this is the conditioning, exactly. Yeah. You're saying it right, yes? Mm-hmm. But it's okay, but I don't need it. Sometimes I can just feel it. It's just like falling in love. And then I can ask you, Mo, why are you in love with this woman? Please give me scientific proof that you're in love with her. You cannot give me that.
No.
Yeah. Right? But you say, I feel in my heart that I love her. Right? Mm-hmm. I don't need scientific proof that I love her. I just love her. I know it in my heart.
I mean, the beauty of, I say it with optimism, really. The beauty of my scientific attachment is that I write in a way that speaks to the language of the modern world, sadly.
Sure, right? Of course.
But wouldn't we all wish that the modern world could also feel? And
I'm also sensitive to that. That's why the opening of the power of the heart is with the HeartMath scientific experiment. Yeah, absolutely. So I totally understand.
Imagine if my book 7 or something is just 2 beautiful covers and white pages in the middle, and everyone could feel what I wanted them to say.
Of course. Yeah. And that's why Paulo Coelho is so great. He's teaching us through a novel. So he's not consumed with the scientific background.
And interestingly, that touches us more.
Yes.
It sort of teaches you at a very different layer, at a very different level.
Yes. Do you like Harry Potter?
I failed to.
Okay.
I'm okay. My daughter's now gonna.
Do you like Star Wars?
No, I don't. Why are you choosing those?
So what do you like?
Choose Inception or
Inception.
Matrix,
okay, that's
right?
a very intelligent. I mean, that's interesting. Inception is really because that's what's happening all the time.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's the multi-layered emotion
illusion. The mainstream media is doing Inception all the time.
Absolutely, we're always in a dream within a dream within a dream. It's so eye-opening. So let's take some of the beautiful qualities of the heart that you brought in the film and in the book. You speak about fear being the ultimate block.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, fear is what we are not. Fear is what was happening right.
Wow, that is a big statement because fear is what most people live in all the time.
Yes, but it means because our true essence, our soul, is infinite consciousness, infinite intelligence, unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are not aligned with our true identity, which is unconditional love, we experience fear. So it means that we're out of alignment with our true self.
Mm-hmm.
And the mainstream media is programming us all the time with fear for this, fear for that. And so we have a society where not all people, but a lot of people are living out of alignment with their true self.
Completely.
Yes. Because when I'm in fear, I cannot function the way I should, the way I'm able to. When I'm aligned with love, I have access to much more. I have access to my intuition. And this is also scientific because you like science. HeartMath showed this. When we are in a state, and they call this heart coherence, they can measure this. That's when we experience love or fear in our heart, then our heart is beating a certain way. And what's happening with us? When we are experiencing heart coherence, our heart is sending signals to our brain, and our brain is opening up. So we use more of our brain capacity when we experience love and gratitude. And what also happens is that our left and our right brain start to work together more. Yeah. So the more loving we become, the more intelligent we become. And this makes sense. I don't know when you were at university, right? And you had to do an exam or a test. When you were really fearful, you sometimes, or nervous or stressed, you sometimes didn't remember things. And then when the test was over, you said, "Oh my God, I knew that, but I
didn't remember it." Yeah,
I didn't remember it, and that's what's fear doing. It's blocking our brain. So when we are in fear, it's more easy. They can control us more easily, right? So fear is a control system. Fear is the way that we are being controlled.
And is it also the way we control ourselves now?
That's how we control each other sometimes.
I mean,
this also happens in corporate structures.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the question is, how do you overcome that? The question is, I say that sometimes, and people go like, "He's nuts." But if I am a spiritual being having a physical experience, then in an interesting way, this entire game, it's not really as big of an issue as we make it, right? It's
the illusion can be very real.
The illusion is very real,
yes. That's the problem, because as long as you are in fear, you can't access your powers. You can't access intuition. You can't access this feeling of connection. You can't access harmony. You can't access reverence for life. You can't access gratitude. So you can't function. You feel like you're.
Can you imagine that? Yes, yes. I mean, you stated it really well here. Yeah. You can't access anything good, really.
Yes. So you automatically become a slave.
Wow.
Right? So we have to connect with that. And that's why we should not look at the outer world too much. We should go within. Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom of heaven within, and then all else will be added onto you." You can replace kingdom of heaven with consciousness. Seek first the consciousness or the awareness, and then all else will be added onto you. Eckhart Tolle said it very well. He said, if you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. So if we go inside and if we start to create the reality that we want inside, then we will experience it in the outside world. But as long as we are focused, this is happening on television, and this is the pandemic, and this is the monkeypox, and this is AI coming at us, we freeze, right? We become totally frozen, and we can't do anything, and we just, I'm going to say what the authorities say, and what everyone wants me to do. Living from the heart is about courage. Maya Angelou said, if you really want to live from the heart, then the first virtue you have to develop is courage. Why? If you look at courage, it comes from Latin, cor. Cor means heart. In French, we say courage, which also, cœur is heart as well. Why do we need courage in order to stay true to our heart? If we start to live from our heart, our authority becomes our inner authority, our inner voice, our soul. And to the outside world, to our parents, to our environment, to our boss, whatever, it doesn't make any sense because you're not listening to an outside voice anymore. You're listening to an inside voice. And you need courage in order to stick with that. You just said, they will say I'm nuts. But in order to stay nuts, you have to stay true to your inner voice. And it takes courage to do that. When I decided to not become a lawyer and to do this, produce a film about the power of the heart, everyone thought I was nuts. Everyone said, this is going to be a total failure. So I needed to develop courage in order to stay true to that voice, because the outside world was not supporting me in any way.
Was pushing back.
Yes, and this is also what we need to do right now in order to stay connected to love, to our true essence, to our soul, is not listen to the outside world, to the authorities, and to stay connected with our voice. We need to develop courage and go inside.
The beginning of The Power of the Heart, you have that story about the Native American,
the Japanese samurai,
Japanese samurai. Where maybe I should ask you to tell it. That he asks if there is heaven and hell.
Yes.
But, after he's killed hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yes.
And I found it so beautiful and so touching, the definition of heaven and hell. Would you mind sharing that?
Yes, he goes to this sage, and he's suffering because he has been killing so many people already. And he goes to this sage. She's a silk sage. And he says, why is there so much suffering? And how can I, get rid of the suffering? And she shows him that it's all depending on your inner state.
It's inside.
It's inside. If you experience hell or heaven, it depends on your inner state of consciousness. That's what she's trying to show him. You see him at the end of the film. He's released from all the fear, all the anger, and he goes back to his village. And you see he's happy because he was able to get rid of that heavy energy of fear. And he doesn't want to kill people anymore. He just wants to live as a farmer in his village.
And isn't that the state for all of us, really? We run and run and run, either because of fear or vengeance or desires or, ego or...
What Anita Moorjani's story shows us is that we are not human doings, but we're programmed to do everything. We are human beings. We should be focused on aligning with our soul and only act when there's really inspired action. But we are acting too much. We're acting out of fear. We're acting out of disalignment, right? So we should focus more on alignment with love, with gratitude, with reverence for life, with our soul, and act from that. We should just, Eckhart Tolle is a great example. When he connected with the power, and he was doing his PhD at Cambridge. He said, I cannot live with myself anymore. He wanted to commit suicide. And all of a sudden, he realizes, oh my God, there are two, because I cannot live with myself anymore. There must be two, because the I cannot live with the myself anymore. And when he realized that the I was his true self, and that was actually the observer of everything that he was doing all the time. And he started to just connect with what he calls the power of now. He also called it the power of the heart in the power of the heart. But he started to connect with that energy. And that's always in the now, in the present moment, that energy. And he was just sitting on a bench for weeks and weeks and weeks. And he was just being. He said, I'm not going to do anything anymore. And just see what happens from me just being. And all of a sudden, there was a woman and she was sitting next to him on the bench. And she said, I don't know what's happening with you, but there's such a beautiful energy around you. I would like to invite you to come to my house. I will give you some food. And, would you then, maybe talk to some people about what you're exactly doing? And that's how we started to teach about the power of now. Mm-hmm. So if we just start focusing on being and aligning with our soul, then our life will just happen for us. Mm. We don't have to do so much, actually. We're addicted to doing.
Yeah, we have to stop doing. But isn't there pain in the heart as well? I mean, sometimes when you connect to the heart, you feel the pain of everyone around you. You feel the suffering of people in Ukraine. You feel suffering of people in Palestine and so on. Yeah. So how, is that also part of the life story that we have? Is it part of the journey to feel all of that pain?
I think it's very important to feel compassion, but if we are not filled with love, we don't have anything to give, right? Mm-hmm. You can help people from joy, from love, from fulfillment, or you can help people from fear or pain, right? Mm-hmm. So I always say, first connect with love and make sure you're filled up with love and help people from that place, because you're not helping them when you're suffering with them. Mm-hmm. Compassion literally means to be with. It doesn't mean to suffer with, right? Mm. So I don't think we will help other people when we suffer with them. I do feel that we can help them when we are really being with them from our soul space, from our true self.
So should we, in a way, sort of acknowledge the pain, but not let the pain drive us, not drown in it in a way?
Yes. I don't think it's very helpful if we try to support people from that place.
So if I was to ask you one tip, the way to the heart, how do I get to make my heart my primary intelligence?
Okay, so the first thing you have to realize is you have your own specific soul signature. Everyone here in this room and everyone who's listening right now, they have their own element, their own soul signature. So they're all different. Yes. And connecting with the heart is all about learning about you, right? Again, when I spoke with Jane Goodall, she said, I connect with the heart when I'm in nature and when I'm working with animals. Paulo Coelho said, when I'm writing. Deepak Chopra said, I connect when I meditate. So everyone has a different way, because if you say, okay, you have to meditate and you have to do this, it doesn't work for that specific person. Every person is different. For me, it's being in nature. For me, it's writing. For me, it is practicing gratitude, cultivating gratitude. And you just have to look at, okay, what's working for you? I know people that really connect with the heart when they're playing piano. Yeah. Or when they're, practicing certain sports. Yeah. Whatever brings you in that state of flow, because flow is maybe the best way to describe that connection with the soul. And do you recognize that flow state?
Oh, absolutely.
So when are you experiencing it?
So I'm like you, when I write, for sure, when I'm in nature, for sure, and I'm in silence, but surprisingly, more and more I realize I'm very much in my heart in flow when I'm connecting to people. I'm the ultimate introvert. Yes. Like I always say, if I'm left alone, you will never see me again. Yes. But I feel so much deep connection to myself when I connect to others. It's really quite eye-opening, actually.
Words that come from the heart, touch the heart, and open the heart. And that's why the best way to connect with the heart is maybe to connect with another person, but on a heart level.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the problem with AI. Yeah. Because that's a conversation that I would like to have with you. Yes. Can we teach AI to work from the power of the heart, to work from forgiveness, to work from gratitude, to work from compassion, to work from reverence for life?
My feeling is yes, but maybe that's a conversation for another day.
Exactly.
I think I'll come to your podcast and
we will talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. But my feeling is that humanity has, I think that this is going to sound like a very, very, very unusual statement. I think that our being is extended into the being of that sentient new intelligence that we're building. Yes. That this new intelligence is actually not just brain intelligence. It's not a mind. It's a form of life that is being manifested in life through us, like our kids, really. And I think they will inherit a better way that's probably not separate like we have between the mind and the heart. They may actually acknowledge that. But that's a wonderful conversation to have. So our listeners, when I record with Baptiste,
we will have that conversation.
And I'll tell you to go and listen there. Forgiveness. Can we talk about forgiveness for a second?
Yes, please. Yes. So
because of course you've had so many people in the book and in the film, but I don't think anything made me cry as much as the story of Rwanda.
Yes.
She sits, again, I won't spoil it for our listeners because I truly recommend you watch the movie. She talks about how someone killed, the Hulu and the Tutsis.
Yes.
So the Hutus killed 1 million Tutsis in the genocide, and including, if I remember correctly, her father, mother, 2 brothers, and best friends, and so on.
Her entire family.
Yeah, in her entire family, and she sits in front of the killer, and empowered by people in power to hurt him if she wants.
Yes.
And she chooses to forgive.
Yes.
How does one do that?
Okay. So the setting. So we are in 1992, and the genocide starts in Rwanda. And what happens is that the Hutus are killing off all the Tutsis. And she's a Tutsi woman, and she's hiding out in a bathroom of a Hutu priest.
Yeah, beautiful.
And she's there with other women and 1 child in the film. And this all really happened. I mean, this really happened. And she is in that bathroom, and she's there for 3 months.
Yes.
And just that everyone is aware of that. And she's in that bathroom, and she realizes that all her friends and her entire family is being killed at that moment. And she feels so much anger, so much rage. And she imagines that she's Rambo that wants to kill the Hutus. Mm-hmm. And what's happening is that she prays to her God, and she says, I need to get rid of this rage because it's killing me from the inside out. And she prays to God, and she says, God, I don't know how to forgive this. Please help me. So it's really important to understand that she's not forgiving because she wants to forgive the killers. She wants to get rid
of the
rage because it's killing her from the inside out. So freedom is forgiveness is another word for freedom. Mm. Forgiveness is always something you do for yourself. Nelson Mandela said, holding a grudge against someone is like drinking poison and thinking it will kill the other person.
Exactly.
So you're never forgiving another person for that person. You're doing it for yourself. Mm. Because it's also always happening, if you're angry or if you feel hate, it's a place of total disconnection.
Correct.
And you want to be connected again with your true self. And that's why forgiveness is another word for freedom.
So I when I get someone, contacting me on Instagram or whatever and saying I can't forgive, and I ask, so how is this helping your agenda? Like, okay, you can hold on to that grudge for the rest of your life. Yes. How is that changing anything? How is it making your life better in any way? So forgiveness is not found in the brain, because the brain will say, that person killed, they deserve to be killed. I should be the one killing them. Yes. But the heart will say, I can forgive.
Yes. What she's doing, Immaculée Ilibagiza, this woman, she's stretching our definition of forgiveness. Marianne Williamson says in the film, every time I have a difficult time forgiving, I think of Immaculée Ilibagiza. Because if she's able to forgive the killers of her family, we must be able to forgive whatever we need to forgive in our lives. Yeah. That's why she's such a great example.
She's just an inspiration. I mean, I will always recall in my very early years, perhaps episode 30 or something of Slow Mo, I hosted Edith Eger. And Edith was drafted to a concentration camp, to Auschwitz, and she basically witnessed her mother being killed and the suffering of her sisters and so on. And, eventually she went back to Auschwitz many, many years later. And I said, why would you do that? Like, why would you bring that memory back up? And she said, I needed to forgive. Yes. And I said, did you? And she said, yeah. If I was that little, I quote her words, if I was that little German girl and someone shouted in my ears and said, today Germany and tomorrow the world, I would have probably done exactly as the guards have done too. They're the ones suffering with having to live with themselves after what they did. And that's this is superhuman when you really think about it, but it also contributes to the beauty of that heart, that woman that is able to sit in front of me at the time it was COVID, so we were talking over Zoom, and I just could feel her energies through that little camera. I was weeping in front of her presence because of how beautiful her heart is, because that connection really was not through my eyes. It was through the heart, really. Yeah.
It's through the heart. And it's also a shift in identification. From our personality, it's really hard to forgive. Look at what they've done to me.
Yeah.
But if you shift to a higher identity, the soul, then you can say they have never done anything to me because I'm unconditional love. They cannot hurt me in any way.
I want to talk about this, about how to manifest like Oprah and J.K. Rowling.
Yes.
I mean, like this is gold here, right?
And the third woman is Anita Moorjani, in the book, but she's not included in the title.
All right, so
because it would be a very long title then. And those two names are so big, Oprah and J.K. Rowling. They're like top
seriously, I want to write a Harry Potter. So there you go.
Okay,
6 steps.
Yes, 6 steps. Yeah. So the first step. It's not the first step, but it's very important to realize, because most people don't realize this anymore. The starting position of Oprah. Oprah was born in Mississippi, at that time the most racist state at the time.
Exactly.
She was as poor as you can be without having a roof over your head. In her own words, she was ugly and fat. Those are her own words. And her mother was a maid. Her grandmother was a maid too. And her grandmother was raising her for a long while. And while she was hanging on laundry, she said, Oprah Gail, because Gail is her second name, I hope you find yourself some nice white folks to work for. So the expectation, the programming of Oprah Winfrey was that she would become a maid as well. That's the programming. So then, fast forward 30 years later, she's one of the most influential women of her time, and she's a billionaire. How is that even possible, right? Okay, J.K. Rowling, you know of the Harry Potter series. So J.K. Rowling, she went to Exeter, and then she's working for Amnesty International in London as an assistant, and then she marries to a Portuguese journalist. They have a very short-lived marriage, I think 13 months in Portugal, and then it's a horrible divorce, and then she has to go back to the UK, but she's not able to afford to live in London anymore, so she goes to Edinburgh, Scotland, where also her sister lives. And she cannot find a job. She just went through a horrible divorce, and she has a child, a daughter to support. And on top of all of this, she is manically depressed. So she feels like a total failure, and she spoke about this at a Harvard commencement speech that she did.
I've seen that,
Yes, and she says failure became the new foundation on which I built my life. Rock bottom became the foundation on which I built my new life. So what happened? When she was young, she always wanted to write, but everyone said, "Oh, you cannot make a living as an author." So she started to pursue other things in her life. But when she hit rock bottom, she realized that she had nothing left to lose anymore. She couldn't find a job. And she thought, I might as well do what I always wanted to do.
Exactly.
And she was in a train from Manchester to London, and she's doing nothing. This is really important. And all of a sudden, she has this download, and it feels like homecoming. It feels like this ecstatic feeling of love. And the idea is, wizard boy that doesn't know he's a wizard goes to wizarding school. And she sees all the houses, she sees all the personalities, she sees the whole setting, she sees everything, and like a total download. But she doesn't have a pen, so she starts to write with her lipstick. Because that's all she has. Yeah. So she could have ignored the idea because you're in a train, you have no pen. But she acted upon this energy, because this is what inspired action is. That's coming from the soul. And she has another download a little bit later, and it is this. It's going to be very hard to get it published. But once it's published, it will get huge. So it was turned down by 12 publishers. So turning her down was like turning down the Beatles because she became the first billionaire author. Oh, going back to Oprah. So Oprah is in Mississippi as a child. She doesn't have a lot to live for. And she says, because she's a member of the Baptist church, she says, God, I don't have a lot to live for, but use me.
Oh, so
that's the secret. That's the secret right there. Because she's not saying, what do I want? She's saying, God, use me. So she's talking to Saul. And Saul there had the opportunity to work through her. And I think that's the explanation. So the first step is that you have to realize your true identity, that you are a soul, right? Yes. And the second step is you have to identify the intentions of the soul. So it's not a coincidence that Oprah's favorite book became, other than the Bible, became The Seed of the Soul. Because Gary Zukav gave her the words to explain to herself what had happened in her life. Because for a long time, and you see this a lot of successful people are unconsciously competent. So they don't know why they are so successful. Because we think we can just copy a successful person, but it doesn't work for us because they have a different soul signature and we have a different soul signature. So Gary Zukav, when he came out with the book, The Seed of the Soul, and he explained what authentic power was, that your personality starts to serve the energy of the soul, that explained to her what had happened in her own life and why she had become so successful.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And this is also, of course, what happened with Anita Moorjani. At the moment when she starts to align with that energy of her infinite intelligence, consciousness, unconditional love, then all the manifestations take place. And that's why it's called Learn to Manifest, like Oprah Winfrey, J.K. Rowling, and Anita Moorjani. Because once you connect with the soul and you figure out, identify its intentions, all those, what we would call miracles, start to take place. Why? Because you are connecting with infinite intelligence. And those are three women from different continents. So Oprah is in North America, J.K. Rowling is in Europe, and Anita Moorjani is in Asia, right?
Time,
so I wanted to show that this is universal, right? And so when we connect with that energy and we start to serve its intentions, then we start to live our soul signature and we start to, and you mentioned the word, naturally live from our element.
It's so beautiful, Baptiste. I think it's different though than books like what is it called? The Secret, right?
Secret, yeah.
Where you can manifest $1 million. But I believe that what you're saying here is that if you are aligned to your soul's purpose, and maybe your soul's purpose is to make $1 million, but if you align to that soul's purpose, then the universe itself starts to help you get to where you need to be.
It starts to work through you. You are being done. You are not doing, you are being done.
Oh man,
that's so beautiful. And be aware, Oprah became a billionaire, right? J.K. Rowling became a billionaire. She's not a billionaire anymore because she gave away so much to charity, but she became a billionaire. They were not focused on becoming billionaires at all. And that's the power of that energy, right? It's just a byproduct, becoming a billionaire.
I totally know that for sure.
Yes.
Totally know.
Totally, yeah. So if you want to learn how to do that, that's the book right there. 3 women from different continents.
I love your work. I started by saying that, but I love you as a human. You're an amazing, amazing being. And for the people that are listening to us or watching us on YouTube, you're missing that presence. That person is just a beautiful soul in every way. I am so grateful. I would have definitely spoken to you for 3.5 hours more. But as you see, sometimes we get interrupted because I have to give a talk about that little voice in your head.
Thank you.
Damn. But anyway,
if you promise me that I can interview you,
I'm going to Antwerp and I will spend the time and I'm going to have coffee with you after the interview and it's going to be absolutely wonderful. We're friends for life.
Thank you.
You're an amazing human being.
It was a privilege and an honor to be here with you. Thank you so much.
You're so kind. For our listeners, I'll say, look for that heart coherence, please. I totally believe in the fact that when you're aligned with your heart, you're so much more intelligent, you're so much more capable. This is something that we've missed out on in the modern world that tells us to do, and rarely ever be. Have the courage to be. And I think it hit me like lightning when you said, use me. I think if we align to that bit of us, our soul's purpose, I can assure you, the only reason that I've succeeded in anything in life was that. It was the idea that I'm here for a reason, and maybe if I align a little more with that reason, the universe itself will help me. I'm not going to bore you with all the typical stuff, but do it anyway so I don't bore you with it next time. Subscribe on YouTube and click the notification button, and 5 stars for the podcast if you want, or share it with others. Find Baptiste on Instagram or other social media. Honestly, read his work, watch the movie. You're not going to regret it. It's just going to absolutely change your life. And I think the movie's an hour and 20 minutes or so. So and as I always say, in your busy life this week, there will always be a tiny bit of time to slow down. I love you all for listening, and I will see you next time.